So getting ready for this day of judgment. Sometimes I run across an idea or a sentence that stays with me for a long time. And there's a line here in Rav Dessler, in the section on Yamim Noraim, that is with me all the time. Ratzon ha'adam hu mahuto. The ratzon means will. The will of a man is his essence. What you want is who you are. Your ratzon, the things that you want, are an expression of your mahut, of your essence. Some of us, what we want reflects an essence that is very, very problematic. Some people want power. Some people want money. Some people want taivas. Desires. I think the technical term in philosophy, chicas calientes. I think it's a philosophical term coined by Plato. What do you want? Part of the difficulty of being your age is not knowing what you want. You want so many things that seem to be contradictory. You want closeness to Hashem, but you also want to learn Torah while drinking wine. And you can't seem to see how that would be a contradiction. You want to be low. How is it? How is it not? Rabbi!
Okay, you're assuming that we're going to go get slosh, but I'm just like
a little bit of wine. The statement that the ratzon of the Adam is an expression of his essence is the way to understand the idea that on Rosh Hashanah there are two books open. Sifrei Chaim, the book of life, or the book for the people who will live, Sifrei Mesim are placed before you. We all are familiar with the idea that there is such a thing as two books are open. We want to be written in the book of life, and then we want it inscribed. It means what? That's way too much olam hazeh. Like 3 pillows? What's going on? Well, there's the natural pillow Hashem blessed you with. It's too much olam hazeh. The Sifrei Chaim and Sifrei Mesim. In the same way that Sifrei Chaim refers to this life, says Rav Dessler, it's the same situation in Sifrei Mesim. That is, the people who are in Sifrei Mesim are people who are around us, but they are considered in Shamayim to be dead. They're considered to be dead. there are those who live their life as a life of true life. And there are those who live their life a fake life, with illusions, with imagination, all sorts of dreams, rather than reality. And people who don't live in reality, they live in a dream world, they are considered Sifrei Mesim. Because they're not living a real life. And it's only if you live a real life, a life according to the truth, the emes, then you are really alive. Then Rav Dessler says something that you should all pay attention to. He has a definition of what death is. We think of death as the cessation of our life. Correct? When somebody died, it means they're no longer alive. They're not around. They're done. But he says, no, the definition of death is the separation from reality and joining the imagination. That's death. So you could have a person who is physically, his heart is beating, there's a pulse, Baruch Hashem, the blood is flowing, electrical currents in his brain, but he's dead. Why? He disengaged from reality and became connected to the imagination. And that's what he's doing. That's his life. He's not in reality. And you meet people like that sometimes. They tell you they did this, they did that, and then you're like, what is this guy thinking? What's going on? He's living in, when I was growing up, people say, La La Land. We would say the elevator isn't going all the way to the top. So, Sifrei Chaim and Sifrei Mesim is a description of where you are on Rosh Hashanah. Where are you? Are you living reality? Or are you living fantasy? If you're in the fantasy world, that's Sifrei Mesim. Because living disconnected from reality and living in the fantasy world, that's what dead people do. And the focus is on your ratzon. That determines if you're going to be in the Sifrei Chaim or Sifrei Mesim. That's the Mahalach of Rav Dessler. Ratzon means will. Very important term. So now let's learn a little bit of Judaism, Andrew. Death does not change the inner existence of a Jew. Our inner existence is called what? Neshama. Very good, Yaakov. It's called neshama. And whether the neshama is in the goof or not in the goof, it doesn't change the nature of that neshama. Does everybody agree with that? So the internal inner life, existence of who you are, isn't affected whether the body is alive or dead. A Rasha that lives his life in a world of fantasy, pursuing physicality, believing that is ultimate pleasure. Right? So that type of person, when he dies, what do you think he's going to look for? What's he going to look for?
So, when you say fantasy, you mean disillusioned by this world or whatever society?
I'm choosing not to define what fantasy means, because I think I'm using it in a normative sense. I think the burden of providing definitions to terms is only if I use the term in a novel way. But if I'm using the standard meaning of fantasy, okay, so a person who pursues physicality as the ultimate goal of life, he's living a fantasy.
Okay, so you're talking about what they're trying to achieve in this world rather than looking in the next world.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, whether the person is alive or dead, their inner self remains the same. If their inner self was living in a fantasy, pursuing physicality, now he has no body, he would continue to pursue physicality even when there is none. It never stopped him in the real world. Why would it stop him in that world? Living a life of fantasy, if that's the pursuit, that's the ratzon of a person, then it means that he would continue to pursue physicality, physical pleasures in the next world. There are some religions out there that when they discuss Olam Haba, they describe it as having 72 virgins. That's the pursuit of physicality they live in a fantasy here and they're continuing their fantasy over there. We know there's no eating, no drinking, no sleeping. That's not how that world works. And so, when a person desires something and doesn't get it, what happens to his desire? Increases. The desire increases. It gets stronger and stronger. Sometimes to a point of obsessive. Right? And so, the Gemara in Masechet Brachot tells a story of two spirits that were interested in what's happening in the physical world. They wanted to know what's happening in physical world. And not only that, one of those spirits was embarrassed because the spirit was buried, the body was buried in a simple mat of reeds. And that was embarrassing. And you see that that spirit was seeking kavod, honor, respect, just like it pursued honor and respect in this world. Which means that whatever you're pursuing in this world, that's what you're going to pursue in the next world. And imagine if that doesn't exist in the next world. Then your neshama essentially is going to be looking all over for a fantasy, for something that doesn't exist. And imagine the level of torment. That is what Rav Dessler calls kafakela, where the souls go from one end to the other because they are seeking, whether it's physical pleasure, whether it's kavod, whether it's jealousy, whatever it is that they were affected, that was the ratzon here, that ratzon is transferred to the next world. Which means that if you don't get your ratzon right in this world, not only are you going to be in trouble in this world, but you're going to be in trouble in the next.
So if someone's not jealous in this world, they won't have that academically experience?
Well, you might be pursuing something else. Something that's a fantasy. Again, going back to the way we started this year. The ratzon of a man is his essence. Now is the time to start evaluating your ratzon. What is guiding your life? How do you make the decisions that you make? It's your ratzon. Well, are you aware of what you want? Sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's worth asking ourselves, why do you want this? Some people say, I want it because it validates that I'm important, that I matter. Okay, and why don't you think you matter? Try to get to the core. There are people who say, Rabbi, I'm ready to get married. Why? Because I'm lonely. Is that a reason to get married? Because you're lonely? What is she? Like going to the circus? She's got to entertain you? I just want to have somebody. Why? What's the rutzon behind it? Try to investigate in the things that you want. What does it reflect about your essence? Somebody leave or come back? Come in. Alan? Alan who? Why is he not coming? He knows the rules. Oh, Bruchim Abayim, Tzaddik. Now the universe is aligned. Now it's Elul. Fist pump and everything, huh? Look at that.
Sephardim unite.
Sephardim unite. What, you planning a coup? Listen, Sephardim unite, except when you guys unite, there's one Yemenite and the whole thing flips on its head. You just need one Yemenite.
What about Uzbekistan?
He's not here. Is he? Who's from Uzbekistan? What?
I think Avi thought I was actually from Uzbekistan.
He has a yarmulke that's Uzbekistan.
Oh. Well, I thought we had a young man this morning, David, from Azerbaijan.
Is that Uzbekistan?
Yeah, he's the guy that goes on a date. You're Rachel? No, I'm Sarah. So it's like Rachel, right? No, I'm Sarah. Get away from me, I'm calling the cops. Pepper spray. Like, ah. It's a third date you already ruined. Isn't it the same thing? No. Apparently the mustaches are thicker in Uzbekistan than in Azerbaijan. On the girls.
It's a good semen if they have it.
You're already signed up. Trust me. For every list. Check. Kessler. Yes, I'm ready. So, let's keep going. Rabbi Yoina, wow. What are you doing here? You look like you ran after a ball for a while.
A little bit.
Yeah?
Sorry, I'm late.
Just watch it online because you need the beginning. Rabbi Yoina son Eibshitz wrote that there is a machloikis in the Gemara whether the dead people know what's happening in this world or they don't. So machlokes is in the Gemara. And he says, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. Both positions are true. Now, that's a little difficult to swallow. But then he says, because those who stay after their death in the madrega of physical world, that they weren't able to, okay, there's a change here, then they're essentially stuck in the world of Beetlejuice. They're stuck. But those who have a higher level of spirituality don't know anything of this physical world because they don't care. Because they don't care. If you want this world, then the next world, you'd want this world also. If you want that world now, then when you get there, that's the world you want. What do you want? What's your ratzon? Do you want closeness to Hashem? Do you want a spiritual, meaningful life? Do you want to be connected to Torah and mitzvahs? Or do you want the opposite? The change in your physical state, whether you're alive or dead, does not change your internal state. And so, the Medrash tells us that Yirmiyahu the prophet had to wake up Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov so that they would pray for the Jewish people. Why? Because they were not interested in this world. They were in the madrega of the spiritual world. And so for them, they didn't care what was happening here. And you had to go tell them, hey, you got to daven. Your people. So, okay, said. So you could also be already in Sifrei Chaim here. If you live your life here for the life there. As opposed to Chas v'Shalom, live your life there, so that your life there would be exactly like here. Gentlemen, there's no burekas in Olam Haba. There are no burekas, there are no steaks on Tuesday night. Certainly no chicas calientes. Like, oh, Rabbi, what am I going to do there all day? I heard once, I don't know. I'm just going to tell you. It sounds like a joke. I took it as emes. But somebody was asked, what's the difference between Gehenna and Gan Eden? So the answer is, in Gehenna, the Kadosh Baruch Hu teaches you Torah 24 hours a day. In Gan Eden, Kadosh Baruch Hu teaches you 24 hours a day. It just depends on your attitude. If you want to learn Torah with Hashem, it's going to be Gan Eden. If you don't want to learn with Hashem, then it's going to be Gehenna for you. Just stop! I can't take it anymore! Stop!
Does that mean you can be close to God and Gehenna?
Yes. Yes.
It's also, isn't Gehenna not supposed to really be a permanent situation?
It's not.
Ideally.
It's not permanent.
Right.
It's not permanent.
You can earn your way out.
There is no purpose for eternal Gehenna. What would be the point of God punishing somebody forever? There could be one answer is that he serves as an example for others. But for the rest of humanity, the concept of Gehenna is a purification. So that you go through that process in order to purify the tumah that you've accumulated on your neshama. the less tumah. It's like going through a car wash. Lahavdi, right? There's a big difference. There are sources that say that everybody goes to Gehenna. Some people just walk through.
Going through car wash without.
And just people go through and just come right out. And everybody who goes through thinks like, oh, they're just walking me through this. Like, oh no, you're staying here. But. But what about the Rebbe? The Rebbe, he gave me $1. What about the payas? He told me if I'd payas. I don't. So Rabbi say, Sifrei Chaim and Sifrei Meisim is meaningful for us to tell us how we are living now. Are you living as if you are living in reality, or are you living in fantasy? If you live in a fantasy world, that's the definition of death according to Rav Dessler. And so you could be alive, but that's considered death. Because you are essentially spiritually dead. Just pursuing fantastical entities, such as kavod, money, power, those things will take you out of this world. The hunger that Rashaim have for taivas, for desires, physical desires, is what will push them into the concept of kafakela. The holy books that talk about it says that the Satan, the Yetzer Hara, which is Malach HaMaves, tries to convince you that physicality is the best goal to pursue. Eat and drink, for tomorrow you shall die. Right? We talked about this before. YOLO. You only live once. Woohoo! But if you really do only live once, why screw it up? Shouldn't you take life more seriously? Shouldn't you have a deep conversation with yourself? What should be your goals in life? How you should accomplish those goals? Is what you want the right things to want? And do you want them for the right reason? People say, I want to have kids. Well, you ask, why do you want to have kids? Oh, because I don't want to do anything around the house. Why else would you have kids? Hey. Right? Somebody to bring you tools when you're fixing something. Yeah. And what happens when you brought the wrong tool?
Your mullet.
Yeah, but I feel like there's also.
Oh, here we go. We're not doing therapy, my friend. This is a Musa shir. You want to talk about your feelings? $2.50 an hour. And I will listen to all your feelings on my couch, and in the end I will tell you, it's all your mother's fault. Tell me what you think. Don't tell me what you feel.
I think there's also the idea that you shouldn't want like nice cars, fancy houses, all the stuff that you're talking about. But the right reasons could also be a reason to want the things. Okay, the cars will leave out for a minute. But let's say I want a big house.
Why?
To fill it with my kids and to host people for Shabbos.
And if you have a small house, you can't do that?
I can do that. I just can't do it as much.
Says who?
I can't fit 60 people in a 10-person house.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
Right, but I'm saying, like, would you be allowed to want those things if it's for those types of reasons?
I don't think that that's the right. I don't think the emes will in that is what you're telling me. Why dafka 60? Why not 700?
Even better.
Why not 10? And why do you want to have guests in your home?
I think it's important.
Why?
Toasting Jews.
Why?
Avram Avinu.
Yeah, I know why Avram did it. I want to know why you're doing it. What?
He wants to get the poor people off the street.
But he didn't say he's inviting poor people.
Of course he's inviting.
No, he's not in his plush house with these nice cars. He's bringing the homeless.
I mean, it might not be
To his
Bachram,
house?
but it'll be Bachram that are probably not
Okay,
like the
so go
wealthiest.
for them. They're not making so much money.
Anyways, yeah.
When a person says something, when you say something, you have to start asking yourself, like the really tough question: why do I want that? What's behind it? Is it ego? Is it because I want to be seen as a, hey, I'm successful, I'm this, I'm that? You have to ask yourself. The answer, you could come back with the answer is, no, I'm doing it for the right reason. I'm doing it l'shem shamayim. I'm doing it because it's a mitzvah. I'm doing it because I want to be mekadesh shem shamayim. Okay, then I say, okay, b'kasha. But if, in order for you to have that house, there's a story that is told that in Ramat Bet Shemesh, there was this very wealthy guy who they took him to meet Rav Steinman, Zatzal. Rav Steinman was the Gadol Hador. He passed away. He was a very, very special Jew. And they introduced him to Rav Steinman. And they said to him, he wakes up every day at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., I don't remember already, and he learns Torah. And then at 9 o'clock, it was 5 a.m., he learns 4 hours, and davens, whatever it is, and then goes to work from 9 o'clock. So Rav Steinman said, doesn't the light interfere with your wife's sleep? So he looked at Rav Steinman and says, what are you talking about? No, it's a huge house. She sleeps on the 3rd floor. I'm in the basement. I have a big base medrash. So Rav Steinman said, so why do you work? That is, what's the ultimate goal? That is, you're telling me that he sits and learns Torah. Amazing, good. And then he goes to work. So Rav Steinman thought, okay, this guy needs to work. He needs to parnasa because to take care of his family. So he must not have a big house. And so maybe I should mention that he should care about the wife. But he's like, no, she lives on this side. I'm on completely other. It's a huge house. So if you have such a big house and you have that much money, why are you working? Why aren't you learning the entire day? So it's the same thing could be over here. That you now, because you have this goal, that I want to invite 60 students from Ohr Somayach who are starving. And they all, if you look around, they're all starving, right? Each one is skin and bones. Baruch Hashem. So you want to invite them. So for that, you need to earn X amount of money. Right? And that's another story, and we'll end with that for today. The Chafetz Chaim's son invited him to see his new house that they built or whatever. And the Chafetz Chaim walked and he looked at the walls and there was wallpaper. And he started kissing the wallpaper. So his son said, Dad, it's not kadosh. It's wallpaper. It's just. And he said to him, no, it's dafs of Gemara. And his son looked at the Chafetz Chaim saying, what are you talking about? Chafetz Chaim said, in order to earn money, to have wallpapers all over your house, you have to make money, you have to work. And working requires time. And when you're working, you're not learning. Which means that each of this wallpaper is X amount of daf of Gemara that you could have learned that you didn't. Because you wanted extras. We're not on that madrega. But I think we should think about that and see, okay, what madrega am I? Is there a way that I could reach a little higher than I am? And maybe change the perspective. Mincha.